In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can use Tableau to compare a quantitative variable between groups with a side-by-side box plot like you see here, and as well getting a table of summary statistics, including the average, standard deviation, and count of a quantitative variable by a particular group. We're going to get started with a whole new worksheet in Tableau. Now I've opened up a new workbook in Tableau. The first thing is I want to upload my data, so I'm going to go to Text File. Under Text File, I will open up the CSV file PUMS 2023 Housing Record Data and press Open. From here, so I can create my plots, I'm going to go to Sheet 1. Now, notice on the left-hand side, we see all of our variable names. Tableau considers two types of variables, either dimensions or measures. A dimension is a categorical variable, where a measure is a quantitative variable. We know that a lot of the variables in the PUMS dataset are coded as ones, twos, and so ons, but they are actually categorical variables. So the categorical variable we're going to use in this example is access to the internet. This is this first variable. We need to create this as a dimension rather than a measure. We can do that by using the little drop down and say convert to dimension. We could have also just dragged it above this measure names line, but that's another easy way to do this. The next step is to get our quantitative variable. This is going to be the household income variable, which happens to be HINCP. Now, I searched for it up here rather than searching for it down below by scrolling. I can grab this and just drag it right into the rows column. Now, to create a box plot just for this variable, I can go to the Show Me Plots and click Box Plot. Nothing happens right away. Why? It's because the aggregate measures are on. So I need to click Aggregate Measures, and I'll see that then I get individual values once I do that. I'm going to click that value, that box plot again, and now I see that I have a box plot just for household income. If I want to split this by access to the internet, I can grab this and drop it into my columns. Now I can see that I have three plots based upon 1, 2, and 3, the different outcomes for access to the internet. I can also see that I have this null spot. I can actually get rid of this by right-clicking and excluding it altogether. Now, the next step is to clean this up a little bit. I don't have a title, I have some extra labels that I don't need, and then I have 1, 2, and 3, which are not helpful at all in understanding what these variables mean. So if I go back to the data dictionary, I can figure out what 1, 2, and 3 mean for access internet variable. To change these, I can click on the downward arrow again and go to aliases. Now I can see over here these different values, and I can change them to what they are in the data dictionary. In the data dictionary, 1 represents yes, they do have internet access and they pay for it through a provider. 2 means yes, they have access to the internet, but they don't pay for it through a provider. And 3 means that they don't have access to the internet at all. Once I press OK, you can see that these labels change below. Now, another thing I notice is that my plot is really squished. And so right now it's under the standard version. I can go to entire view and it'll stretch out my plot to show it across the entire screen. Now I can see my side-by-side box plot a lot better. Now, a couple of other things that I can do. I can also delete this access internet label. It's not necessary, so I'm going to hide it. Now over here under household income, I'm going to relabel this access to be more descriptive. And finally, I can add a title. Once I type in my title, I press apply and I can see how it looks, then pressing OK. Now I've essentially finished my side-by-side box plot. If I want to add some different colors, I can always right-click on this and edit. Here I see that it's light gray. Maybe I want to change this to something like a plum color and press OK. If I want to change these labels, I can go to size, I can change them to being bigger or to being smaller, and I can also change the color. So if I want these to be maybe a little bit more transparent, since they're not as important to me, I can go ahead and change them altogether. And this is how we can create a side-by-side box plot in Tableau. To create summary statistics, open up a new sheet. Now, take your categorical variable and drop that into rows. Then you can take your quantitative variable, HINCP, and drop it into marks. You can do this 3 different times, one for the average, one for the standard deviation, and one for your sample size. We're going to add these as we get further into the calculation. So to change the overall from a sum to an average, go ahead and click on the little down arrow, clicking it to average. Now go ahead and do this again from sum to standard deviation, and the last one from sum to count. Now, right now you can't see them in the table, so we're going to change these to texts. And right now I don't really like the format of the table, but it can be fixed by going to the Show Me and clicking on the table, and it will reformat the table so it makes a little bit more sense by putting the labels up at the top for each one of my average, count, and standard deviation. Now, something I've noticed is that it's put this into alphabetical order, but that's not really what I want. I want standard deviation before count. So I can just switch those so my table looks a little bit nicer, and I can stretch this out so it looks like I can see all the different labels. Also, I can delete this null and get rid of that by right-clicking and doing exclude values. And this is how we can get summary statistics for a quantitative variable between groups. Hopefully this video better helped you understand how to use Tableau to compare a quantitative variable between groups of a categorical variable.